Hi everyone, welcome to Python Web Scraping. I'm Asad Ali, and today in this video I'll tell you how you can save your data into a CSV file. And in this video I'll also tell you how you can create a JSON file as well. And before I start, make sure you subscribe this channel and hit a like button as well. In this video I'll be using Jupyter Notebook. I'm sure you have already installed it. If you don't, I have a few videos you can follow to install a Jupyter Notebook in your computer, even if you have either MacBook or Linux or Windows, you can follow those steps. All right, so first, if you have this window open, you can simply click on New and go to this notebook. Click on this, and it's going to open the window, something like this. Okay, so now if you look here, it is asking me to select a kernel. Let's click on this. If you have others, you can select, but I have only one, so I'm going to select that. Okay, let's select this one as well, and let's go. All right. So remember that CSV is basically the simplest form of has simplest structure to store the information into a file. So just like its name, it is CSV, which means comma separated version. Okay. All right. So let me show you how it looks like. Okay, remember that whenever you are saving a CSV file, it's always going to be a string separated by commas. Okay, first I'm going to tell you a simplest possible way to save a CSV file. Then I'll use a CSV module that comes with Python, and then you can also use pandas as well and some other libraries as well. Okay, so let's start with the simple method. First, let's create a simple string, and now I am going to, let's call it, this is simple, very simple string. So if you look here, this is basically a string with 4 words in it, and each of them is separated by a comma. All right. So let's create a new cell and try to save this string into a CSV file. Let's run this now. Uh, to open any file in Python, there is a built-in method with the context manager that we start with. Okay. So let's open a file with open, and inside of this I'm going to mention a path of the file. So remember that if I go back to home, whatever I save without giving the path of the file, it's going to save the file in this directory. Okay, so instead of doing that, let's create a new folder. Here is a folder, let's call it, okay, this is supposed to be, let's call it CSV tutorial. Okay, now this comes on the top. Let's try to copy the, see, we can copy the complete path. If I copy this one, I'll have the complete path of the file. Let's go back to our notebook and paste the path here. If you look here, it has copied the relative path to our home page. Okay, so which means that wherever I'm using terminal. Okay, so in case of if you are launching your Jupyter node from the terminal, wherever you are in your terminal, if you launch there, it's going to consider that path as a base path. Okay, so in this case, what I have done is that I have opened this in my tutorials folder, so it is showing me all the files in the tutorials folder. Okay, so now let's use this path, relative path, / and now I'm going to create a CSV file. Let's call it basic.csv. Okay, now comma, and because I want to write a new file, it is supposed to be W. Okay, if you are reading a file, it should be R, and if you are on trying to create a new file, it should be W. Okay, now let's move on and call it as F. All right, now let's go to new row and try to write our string. So in this case, because it's simple comma separated string, I'm going to simply f dot write, and here I'm going to mention the string that I have created before. All right, now let's run this. Okay, so what happens here is that opens it with write parameters, uh, okay, as f, and then it writes it. Because we are using context manager, when we exit this index, it simply closes the file as well. All right, so let's go back to our file. This is supposed to be tutorials. As you can see that we have this basic.csv file saved in this directory. Let's open this, and you can see that this is simple string. Okay, so what it means is that it has simply created a CSV file with from that string using commas as a delimiter. All right, so this is the simplest possible way to create a CSV file. So if you have let's say uh, more than, if you want to save more than one rows, you can simply add a backslash n at the end. So what it will do is that it will save one row, and then it will add a new line character in the end, and then it will go on and on. Okay, so before, let me just create another one. This is first string. Okay, now this is second string. All right, now let's add a new row path here, new row character here, and call it this is third string. Okay, so the reason I'm making it as simple as possible is because if you ever want to write a string, make sure that you can always like comma separate it and simply write it into a file without having to use any other libraries. All right, let's run this and run this as well. So what happens here is that it is going to overwrite the same file. So let's refresh it and see what happened. All right, it's, as you can see here, we have this is first string, this is second string, and this is third string. What happened? It separated each column using comma, and then it created a new row using the new row character. All right, so what, every time if you have different parameters, you can always comma separate them and concatenate the new row character in the end. It's going to save the file like that. Okay, now sometimes you will have commas already there, so what you can do is that you can always replace that. Let's say right now I have this one string, one big string. So instead of one big string, sometimes you have something like this. Let's change it and create a list. Or instead of list, let's first make it more simple. Variable 1 equals to uh, this. Variable 2 equals to is variable 3 equals to first. Variable 4 equals to string. So in this case, let's say if you have already have a comma in the string like this, instead of whenever you will try to save this, it's going to consider this comma as a save it use it as a delimiter, so you cannot save it in a single cell. So to solve this problem, what you can do is you can simply replace the commas with another delimiter. This is one way of doing it. The current the libraries of often that we use, CSV library or pandas or any other, they take care of this part. But if you want to go with this method, you will have to replace the commas to some other value before you save it to a CSV file. Okay, all right, now let's start. I'm not going to save this, or maybe let's just save it for once so that you can have some basic understanding of how it works. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create string 1 equals to v1 variable 1. So here I'm going to concatenate it. Okay, join all the variables v1, v2, v3, and v4 using the comma. All right, so in this case, variable 2 plus variable 3 plus variable, sorry, okay, variable 4. All right. Now that we have this string, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this string again. Okay, as this is done, let's refresh this file and see what happens. All right, so if you look here, this word, this is being separated because of comma. It looks like this. This is, see, first I'll also split into two parts because it is using comma as a delimiter, so it doesn't differentiate between this comma and this comma. Okay, so make sure that either you replace them or you can use other methods. Okay, now let's move on to using the CSV library that we can that comes with the Python, so you don't need to install CSV, so simply just import it. Import CSV. All right, now in this case what happens is that we are going to write some data into a CSV file without having to identify the, concatenate and other parts. Everything's taken care of by the CSV module. Okay, let me remove this one as well. All right, now because most of the time we have lists, so right now I'm going to write list of list into a CSV file. All right, so let's do that. First, let's create our list, li1, and inside of it I'm going to let's simply add these alphabets. Okay, now we have this one list. Let's add another list and try to create list of lists. Okay, in this I'm going to add numbers. Okay, now as you can see that we have a list of lists. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this into a CSV file using this CSV library. Now I'm going to use the context manager that I've used before using with open, and here we have this file. Let's use the same file, but we can change the name. All right, let's change the name and then let's call it basic one. And here I'm going to use the same W because we are writing a new file. And here one more thing I'm going to add is new line. Okay, as F. Now let's create a writer. Writer that I'm going to create, I'll be using CSV library for that. CSV.writer, and here I'm going to pass this F as a parameter. Okay, now let's use this writer to write this CSV file. To do that, let's loop over our list for li and li1 writer dot, sorry, right row, and here I'm going to pass this li as a parameter. So let's run this, and as you can see that has executed successfully. Now let's go back, let's close this one and go back to our file, refresh it. Now as you can see that we have this basic one as well. Let's open it. Okay, as you can see there, it has successfully written the data list of lists into a CSV file. Okay, so the same thing we can do with the dictionary. If you have a dictionary here and you want to save that dictionary into a CSV file, you can do that as well. So for that, right now I have this list of lists. So now let's create a dictionary. Let's call it dictionary1 equals to, do not call it dictionary dict because it's a built-in method. Sorry, equals to. So here I'm going to mention some keys and values. Let's call it name Python, and let's call it version 3. So I have these. I have few. Sorry, I think I need this here. All right. So we have this dictionary where name. We have keys and values here. Okay. Now let's call it call one more thing here, OS, let's call it Windows. Okay, all right. Now let's save it, and here we have some built-in methods that we can use to write a dictionary into a CSV file. And remember that in this case, it's going to use these keys as the header rows. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so if you look here, we created a writer before for a CSV file, list of lists. In this case, I'm going to create a dictionary writer for our dictionary. All right, so in this case, I'm going to mention one more thing here, which is supposed to be header row, I guess. Sorry, not header row, field names equals to dictionary one dot keys. Okay, so these are basically the in this case I'm going to convert this into okay, in this case I'm going to convert this into a list because it's going to be an dictionary object. Anyway, let's write a header row, write header, and in this case we have either if you have only one dictionary like here I do have, you can simply without using the list you can do that, but if you have a list you can loop over it. Okay, so let's convert this into a list and change it to into first one. Okay, now let's try to write this into a CSV file. In this case I'm going to call it basic2. So what I'm doing here is that I'm going to create a new base2 file, CSV file. Then I'm going to create a writer for this dictionary, which is dictionary writer. And next I'm going to write a header, write its header because it already knows the header. In this case, this is the header. Okay. So because I have list of dictionaries, it is going to loop over them and then write each of these into a CSV file. Okay. So let's try to run it and see if I can get into any errors. All right. Probably didn't run it. Let's run this. Okay. Now let's go back to our file, close this one and see we have this. Let's refresh it once again. And if you look here, we have this basic2 file saved 11 seconds ago. So if you look here, we have name, Python, version 3, OS, Windows. It's really helpful if you have, list of dictionaries and you want to save that into a CSV file and you don't want to like loop over keys and values and you want to identify. The only drawback of that is that if you have like different length of dictionaries, let's say if you have more than in this case, let's say name, version and OS, but if you have more than these keys value pairs, different length of dictionaries in this list, it's going to use first one as a header, so it will not consider any other with different, you know, keys and value pairs. What I mean is that if you, let's say, if you have this in first dictionary and you have, let's say, let me just copy paste this one, and you have one more key value pair here, let's say, uh, anything more. Okay, so in this case, because we are writing for fields for only first dictionary, we are using the keys of first dictionary to write the header row. It's going to consider only these three key value pairs. Okay, it's not going to consider this more anything. So be careful with that. Make sure that you have all the header everything in the header row before you write that dictionary into a CSV file. Okay, so this is basically how you write CSV library to save a CSV file in Python. All right. So same thing we can do using pandas library as well. So let's try to do that using pandas. So if you don't have pandas installed, first let me check if I have pandas installed. Hmm. All right, I have pandas installed. So you can do that. Simply import pandas. If it's installed, it will be imported successfully. If not, you can simply type pip install pandas in your terminal. It's going to install it. All right, so let's import pandas as PD and run again. So we have pandas as PD. Let's use pandas to save a CSV file into create a CSV file. Okay, now let's use pandas to save the list of lists into a CSV file. Okay, let's go back to the part where we had a list of lists. I don't want to create another one. All right, so if you look here, we have this list of lists. In this case, we are not going to, you know, use this context manager. Let's remove this and let's get this one and remove rest of it. Okay, so file path is going to be this one, and it's supposed to be basic 3. Okay, so now I'm going to use pandas, but remember that in pandas you have to create a data frame. First I'm going to create this, convert this into a data frame, and then I'm going to use pandas method to save to CSV. Okay, so let's do that. PD, let's create a data frame. Df equals to PD dot data frame. So if you wonder how I'm getting this drop down, it is if you click on tab after dot, once you press dot and click tab, it's going to create this all the options that you have. Okay, so in this case, let's type data and hit tab, and it's going to show this option. Okay, pretty cool, right? All right, so let's first pass the data. This is supposed to be the data, and next is I guess fields, but I think we can simply set it as well. Okay, let's run it. As you can see, that it has created a data frame. You can print the data frame, see what data frame really looks like. If you look here, we have got the data frame. All right, so what I'm going to next I'm going to do is I'm going to save that data frame into a CSV file. It's pretty simple. Just okay, so wait a second, I made a mistake here. This is supposed to be this is not supposed to be a list, it's supposed to be a, sorry, one big dictionary. So let's just remove sorry, remove these things. And now we have this one big dictionary with the keys and values, keys as headers, and values are supposed to be the, you know, rows for the CSV. Okay, let's just save this one, and now we have this file name. Let's change it to file number basic 4. In this case, because we have a dictionary, in this case we are going to convert this using from dictionary method from a data frame. Okay, so let's run this and try to print this as well and see what it looks like. Print df and run it, and you can see that we have this first keys as the headers, and rest of it is our rows. Okay, now we are ready to save this. You can use the same method df dot to csv, sorry, df dot to csv to your file path. Let's run this and it should save the csv. Let's get back here. Let's close this one, and we have 4 here. Let's open this, and this does not look right. Let's go back to our CSV file and see what we did wrong. We probably did this one correct. This one is correct. From dictionary, li looks fine to me. This looks fine to me. File path looks fine to me. Okay, let's try to refresh this and see if it's correct. All right, I think I did not run this one, so it probably this one. So it did not save data frame, and it was carrying the previous data frame, so it just simply ran it and saved it like that. Anyways, if you look here, it is successfully saved. The first one are the headers, and the rest of the rows are the list that we have here. Okay, now I think you have some understanding how you can create CSV files using different CSV library, pandas, and etc. Now let's move on to saving the JSON files. JSON files in Python, we use dictionaries. Both have same, structure, but they're slightly different. Okay, let's remove this one. All right. In To save a dictionary to a JSON file, we will need a library that is called JSON. Just simply import that. I think it is already installed with Python comes with Python, so you don't need to worry about it. Okay, let's create a file. Name equals to, I'm going to use this one folder, and then we can call basic JSON. Uh, Dot. Okay, that is confusing. Let's just call it basic 5. Sorry, sorry. 5.json. Okay, let's run this, and now we have to create a JSON file. Sorry, let's create a dictionary and try to save that into a JSON file. Okay, now I'm going to create a dictionary that is supposed to be dictionary 1, and in here I'm going to, let's name Python again. Version is of course 3, and platform is Windows, right? Now let's try to run this, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this one into a JSON file. To do that, again, I'm going to use the context manager that I used before. In this case, let's open it, file name, and with write mode as F. Okay. Now the next thing is I'm going to save this using JSON library. To do that, simply json.dump. Inside of it, I'm going to first pass the data, and then next one is the file. Let's run it and let's hope that it's saved. Okay, let's go back to our file, and you can see that it has different logo here. Let's try to open it and see if it is saved. As you can see that name Python version 3 platform window. The dictionary is saved into a JSON file. Okay, so you must be wondering, we don't always have one dictionary. We most of the time have list of dictionaries. So the good part about this is that you don't need to, you know, loop over it. You can simply just dump it. Okay, let's just create multiple dictionaries here. I'm going to keep it like that, not changing any data. Let's try to run this, and again, let's do the same thing here. Alright, now let's go back to our this file and try to refresh it. Okay, as you can see that this is basically how it is showing us, but if you expand this, you will see that it is saved as we expect it to be saved. So I think this is using some kind of parser. So if you want to, I think I just need to go there. I don't know where is that. Okay, this is the one. So this is basically what we have here. Wait a second. I think I have so many windows open. Let's go back there. So this is what we have here. So let's try to open this in our browser. Okay, if you look here, we have all the dictionaries saved into a CSV file, sorry, into a JSON file, and without any problem. I think this is the simplest possible way to save JSON file. So if you have any questions, I think you can do the same in using pandas as well. So let me quickly show you how you can do that. You the same in using pandas. All right, let's get back to it. And okay, so to save that, as I mentioned before, in case of see pandas, we need to change the way we have our dictionary saved. So let's just remove the list from here. We will need just one big dictionary. So let's all right, let's remove these ones as well. So we have one big dictionary here. Instead, just okay, let me just create a new one. So in this case, what we need is we need first one as a key. Let's call it language. That is supposed to be, let's call first one is Python. Second one is Java. Third one is whatever. What is Ruby, I guess. Okay, we have three languages. All right, now let's move on to the next. Let's call the versions. And I don't know what versions we have other than for Python. So let's keep anything that you want. All right, I guess let's, okay, we have it right. Now let's go to platform and we have, you know, Windows, Linux, Mac, right? Let's run this and save it. Let's now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use pandas. We already have pandas, I guess, but let's import it again. Import pandas as PD, right? Okay, cool. All right, so this is the file that we are going to save. In this case, let's call it 6. Save it. We have this. All right, now let's create a data frame. In this case, let's use pd.dataframe, and here I'm going to pass dictionary1 as a data frame. Okay, so we have this data frame here. If you look here, it looks really nice, right? Okay, so in this case, to save the data frame to a CSV file, sorry, a JSON file, and I'm going to do dataframe dot to underscore JSON. And inside of it, I'm going to pass the file name. And one more thing, let's save file name and see what happens. Run it, go back to home, refresh it. Now we have 6. Let's open 6. Okay, so if you look here, we have our CSV file saved. Pretty simple and straightforward. You can also mention the orientation here. Wait a second, where is this? It's supposed to be orient and records, right? So let's run it and look at the data frame again. So it has slightly different, but I think it's same. Anyway, we have our data saved in our JSON file. So these are few methods that you can use to save your CSV files and JSON files. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe the channel and hit the like button as well. That is the best way to support me and my work. Thanks. Have a good day.